I'm trying right now.
It won't go in or what?
Are you in? No, you're not in yet.
Well, no. Are you going trying to go in the? I gotta go into finance and budget.
Yeah, I am too. Trying to get this figured out.
Gentlemen, go to just where it says the 7 o'clock meeting. Regular meeting at 7. That's budget and finance.
Thank you for the update, Mr. Commissioner Fisher. I was in the regular meeting at 7 o'clock. That the 7:30 committee of the whole was canceled.
Yeah, there's a little confusion. I had to get my dear friend Chairman McDonough to get me fixed on this, and I'm on and doing well. Looks like we're doing okay now.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Yes.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Yes, Commissioner Mankins.
I seen that you had a New York Giants hat on.
Still proud.
Who did they lose to?
Thank God we're not on record. The Steelers, and I owe Mankins lunch. Okay?
No, it's
not dinner.
my choice. We have 1 minute.
What is the phone number they can call in for the regular meeting? Can someone tell me?
Yes. Well,
For public comment, Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
497-5009.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, everyone. I will call the Finance and Budget Committee meeting of September 16, 2020 to order. Says we got 2 call-in users. Okay, first things first, check run. Start with Commissioner Fisher. I don't see anybody from Finance and Budget on yet. So we may wait a minute, I guess, so we can have.
Commissioner McDonough, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I don't know what's not the video. I don't know if I hit a wrong button, but I'm definitely here. So.
And I'm here and Commissioner Fisher's here.
We have enough time. Just don't have anybody from the department, it looks like, to answer.
Oh, I got you.
Whoever has the dog barking, you're not on mute.
We have a call-in user, and I need to know your name, or you will be removed from the meeting.
This is Lori Casey.
And are you the 565 call-in user?
1332, yes.
So we have 2 people responding.
Okay, Kathy, this is,
Yes? You're Lori Casey. You're not the call-in user. Would you mute, Lori? So go ahead and mute yourself. The call-in user is unmuted. Could you tell us who you are so we can put your name on here?
Pat Holland.
Pat Holland, okay. All right, thanks, Pat. I'm gonna put your name in there so we know who you are. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to start with again, I'll recall the Finance and Budget Committee meeting of September 16, 2020 to order. First things first with our check run. Commissioner Fisher, would you like to start this evening?
Thank you, Chairman McDonough. I have no questions on the check run.
Okay. Commissioner O'Neill?
No questions?
Okay. Commissioner Callahan? We got a thumbs up. I'll take that as a no questions unless you have, okay, you're still on mute there, Commissioner Callahan.
All right, I have no questions, Chairman, or Chairman McDonough.
Commissioner Shea?
I also do not have any questions tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Danette, do you have any updates or are there any changes to this week's check run?
I don't. There's no changes or updates.
Okay, there's no, I don't have any questions either. There's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I will make a motion that we have reviewed the check run and approved the amount of $1,529,747.90.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion is approved. I guess if we log out here, we can log back in with the same link. Or you could just stay and mute. Your choice. Use the same link for the regular meeting. Might as well just mute and stay. Okay, we are adjourned.
Were those phone calls for the budget and finance or were they for the regular meeting?
There are 2 BSB employees. It was Mr. Holland and Mr. Holland was Pat was the identifier or the number that didn't have a name. So they've correct. So we had no call in from the public.
Thank you.
What's up?
Bill, I think the meeting just ended.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Can you?
I think he said you can stay in this meeting and just, go right into the regular meeting if you like. Black when you're on.
Just trying to
Hi, Cindy. How are you?
Hey, John, how are you?
I'm doing good.
That's good.
You can hear me okay?
Yeah, so far
Okay.
it's good. Hey, Bill,
Hello.
Hi, Bill.
how's work?
Hello. Hey, Cindy.
How's work, Bill? I know, I can imagine.
It was just insane.
Thank you for your service. I need it.
Thank you. Let's see. I don't know if you can look covered or not, but if
What's
you see
up?
me drifting off to this side, I'm in trouble.
Uh-oh. Hi, listing to start work. As he say. Hey, Bill, did you ever, I sent you an email about some folks there on Broadway Street that, you know, where it ends, it goes, it's really steep hill up to Western. I sent you, it was one of your constituents, I believe.
Up by the college, right there by the college.
Right. They wanted to make it one way, and I don't know. Did you ever talk to them at all? I didn't.
I talked to one way up there a while ago, but
Okay. I told them they need to put a communication in and go to Public Works, so that's kind of where, and I gave your name as, sure. They want to pursue it, that's the way they should go.
I will have to track it down again and find them and talk to them about it. Some wanted it, didn't want it, and you know, it's
There you go.
It should
Exactly.
go left, it should go east, it should go west, and it's like, you guys figure out what you want and let me know.
That was yeah, I bet you that was probably one of the biggest problems of the whole thing was which direction.
Mm-hmm. And that's the trouble with anything, if you do A, you're going to piss off everybody, and B, you're going to piss off all. It's just like, you guys get on a page and try to figure it out. Otherwise, this is the best solution.
Exactly.
Everybody who parks west wants to go west. Everyone who parks east wants to go east. It's just not worth getting involved with.
Broadway already goes west one way. It'd be really confusing to make another block the other way.
Well, there's a few other streets. There's right by my house on Jackson. Is it Jackson or is it? Oh, shoot. Part of it's going south, part of it's one way going north. It meets there on Galena. So, it's doable, but it just makes it a headache for people. So, I don't know. Did you see about Mary?
Hang on, Bill. I think we're starting.
Two.
Okay, are we ready upstairs, John?
We are, Mr. Palmer.
Hey, thank you. I'm going to call the Butte-Silver Council of Commissioners regular meeting for Wednesday, September 16th, 2020 to order. Could we have roll call, please?
Mr. Chief Executive, we have 12 present, 0 absent.
Thank you. Commissioner McDonough, would you like to lead us into prayer?
Almighty God, we implore you, look upon us and guide us this night as we make decisions which shall greatly affect our community of Butte-Silver Bow. Direct our thoughts, words, and deeds so that we please you and best serve our fellow citizens. Amen.
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 Next, we'll go for the approval of the minutes of the September 2nd, 2020 regular meeting. Minutes, Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes of September 2nd, 2020's regular meeting minutes.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of the September 2nd, 2020 regular meeting. Is there anything on the question? Will everyone please vote?
1 second. Oh, wrong one. Mr. Chief Executive, there was somebody that just recently called in and looks like they are now gone. Can you post that one, Kathy? All right, Mr. Chief Executive, there's a vote for people to submit.
Okay, will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
Is it?
Right. Okay. You're in it. On phone. Can I mute it? Yeah.
Okay. Looks like 12-0, motion carries.
Yes.
I do not see any items not addressed on the agenda this evening. We'll go to the chief executive's report. I'd just like to report that I believe it's an historic day in Butte because we did get the consent decree for Superfund signed by the judge earlier today. And I would just have to sit back and wait for the work to begin. But it is a great day for Butte. It's been long awaited, and we look forward to all the work that's going to happen. The other thing I'd like to talk about is the census for 2020. I'm urging everyone to please take 10 minutes and call the number. It's 1-844-330-2020 and complete the form. Otherwise, go to 2020census.gov. It's an important item for us to get counted because we receive about $20,000 per person that's counted annually in the federal government. So every person that does not get counted, we lose a lot of money. So, and it also could mean a second seat in the House of Representatives. So we were really close to getting another one last time, but we fell short on the numbers. So if we can get everybody counted this time, we are likely to increase the number of our representation in Washington, D.C., which would be a good thing. So moving on to public comment on any items on the agenda, we'll go to the phone line. Commissioner Morgan.
Mr. Chief Executive, before we do that, I noticed that we have a person that is on this meeting with the phone number of 406-498. Can we just get them to identify who they are?
Okay. The caller with the phone number of 406-498, something that called in, could you identify yourself, please?
It's JP Gallagher.
Oh, JP. Okay.
Hello, JP.
All right. Just in case anyone needs me with the communications we have on.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks.
Mr. Chief Executive.
I'll mute myself now.
Oh,
thanks,
JP. Mr. Chief Executive, we do have a call.
Okay, we'll go to the phone lines.
Thank you for calling the Butte-Silver Council of Commissioners meeting. Please state your name and address for the record. Hello? Are you there?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. They were there and then they hung up. Are they back?
Okay.
They're not saying anything. Hello, are you there? So that's all we have right now, Mr. Chief Executive.
Okay, well, thank you. We did not receive any emails evidently. So.
I have one to read after the next section, but.
Okay, then we'll go to section 1, bid openings, public hearings and/or presentation. First one is a public hearing, communication 2020-357. Angie Milliken, Public Works Budget Analyst, requesting Council of Commissioners to schedule a public hearing for September 16th, 2020 for the purpose of amending the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget to allow for increased expenditures of unanticipated revenue. County Attorney Joyce, do we have proof of publication?
Mr. Chief Executive, there is proof of publication and it does appear to be in order.
Okay, thank you. I didn't see Angie on there, but I did see Corey. So Corey, do you have a staff report?
Corey, you're unmuted, but we're not hearing you.
Maybe you could possibly call in, Corey.
Chief Executive Palmer, if it's easier, I can give the staff report.
Okay, we'll go that way.
Okay, Chief Executive Palmer, Corey was successful in seeking some additional funding from the Department of Transportation CARES Act funds. These are direct funding that went from the CARES Act to the state of Montana Department of Transportation. And then Corey successfully was able to submit for request of 2 vans. And this is what this request on this public hearing is for. There's no match on this grant.
Well, that's good. Are there any questions for Danette from the commissioners? You see none, I'll open the public hearing and call for proponents. Are there any proponents?
Mr. Chief Executive, we do have a call in right now, and I don't know if it'll be this one or the previous one, so.
Okay, well, we'll go to the phone and see.
Okay. Thank you for calling the Butte-Silver Bow Council of Commissioners Council meeting. Please state your name and address for the record. Hello. Thank you for calling the Butte-Silver Bow Council of Commissioners meeting. Please state your name and address for the record. Hello? Thank you for calling the Butte-Silver Bow Council of Commissioners Council meeting. Please state your name and address. Call on the phone. We can hear the meeting played in the background. Hello? Thank you for calling.
Oh, hi. My name is Cindy Purdue Dolan. I am calling regarding communication number 370, the MOU. I am Southwest Montana field rep for Senator Steve Daines, and I wanted to make the following comment for him. The approval of the consent decree today is a remarkable milestone for Butte. Full restoration, including the restoration of Silver Bow Creek, is critical. A memorandum of understanding is important to make that happen. However, it is vital that all stakeholders be at the table in order to reach a comprehensive agreement. I've been working with the Restore Our Creek Coalition, Butte-Silver Bow, ARCO, and the state of Montana to bring folks together to accomplish this shared goal. The people of Butte deserve the best cleanup available, and those responsible should be held accountable. I look forward to continuing to partner with all of you to make that happen. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the rest of tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
And let the record show that was not part of the public hearing, but it had to do with items on the consent agenda. So just for the record. So we'll go back to the phones for proponents.
No phone calls at this time.
Okay. Second call for proponents. Third and final call for proponents. Seeing none, we'll move to opponents. Go to the phone lines for opponents. Second call for opponents. Third and final call for opponents.
No calls, Mr. Chief Executive.
No calls. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. And we'll move on to section 2, the consent agenda. We have committee reports A 1 through 4 and B communications 1 through 21. Are there any segregations or friendly amendments?
Mr. Chief Executive.
Yes, Commissioner Sorge.
Yes, I'd like to segregate number in section B, number 18, 2020-378, please.
Okay. Are there any other segregations? Commissioner Callahan.
Yes, Mr. Chief Executive. I would like to segregate communication number 2020-377, please.
That is number?
Item 17.
17. Okay, thank you. Are there any other segregations? Seeing none, Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, I would make a motion that we approve section 2, the consent agenda, A, the committee reports 1 through 4, B, communications 1 through 21, with the exclusions of number 17, 2020-377, and number 18, 2020-378.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to concur to approve the consent agenda, A, 1 through 4, and B, 1 through 21, exclusive of number 17 and number 18. Is there anything on the question? Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote?
Mr. Chief Executive, we need a couple votes. Just go ahead, bring that up, Kathy. Mr. Chief Executive, I just need a couple of votes from Mr. Callahan and
Mine's up.
Commissioner Callahan is a yes.
so we have 12 yay, 0 nay.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Next, we'll go to communication number 17. Communication 2020-377. Mark Neary, Public Works Director, requesting Council of Commissioners permission to dispose of the hot plant and crusher on the state surplus website. We have found that it is cheaper for Butte-Silver Bow to purchase asphalt and gravel rather than make it. Commissioner Callahan. You're on mute, Dan.
Thanks, Mr. Chief Executive. The reason I segregated this is I believe that our hot plant and our crusher are a vital part of our Public Works Department. And this communication kind of come up real fast. We haven't had any discussion in the Public Works Committee. None of us have had a chance to even voice any opinions. We haven't seen numbers. We haven't seen any facts on this. So I would like to see this move to the Public Works Committee so we can have some time to discuss this and get a little bit of information and find out more about what's going on here. I think it was a quick, happened pretty fast. We really didn't know much about it. I think it's a vital part of our public works. Every part of our public works uses this crusher and hot plant. I mean, our water department, our metro sewer, our parks department, our road department. This is a bigger issue than just putting something up for sale, I believe. So I would like to see this go to the Public Works Department or committee. And if anybody else has something to say, I'd be more than welcome to hear it. If not, I'll make a motion.
Second.
We do have a motion made and seconded to refer this communication to the Public Works Committee. But before I open it up for questions to the commissioners, I just want to make a statement that, we've been looking at this issue for several years. It goes back as far as when Chief Executive Babb was in office, and we had the committees studying whether or not it's feasible for Butte-Silver Bow to continue operating the crusher and the hot plant. And every year we've been studying the difference in price of what it costs Butte-Silver Bow to make the asphalt and what we can purchase it for. In the early days, there was only a limited number. Actually, there was only one. It was Gilman Construction that was making asphalt. And if he was doing a large highway construction project, then he would not sell it to Butte-Silver Bow or to any other contractor because he needed everything he could make. But currently, there's at least 4 contractors out there that have hot plants, and it's much more feasible to make it. Now, there's a lot of concern that we're doing this to lay off Public Works employees. That is not the case at all. It's my thought and belief that they won't be busy making the asphalt, but when we purchase it, we can purchase more of it and put more of it down each year because we have more manpower to be doing that. and we could be getting into these neighborhoods, and it's all winter long, instead of hauling gravel, for the next year to make asphalt, we can have these crews out there picking up more snow, getting into the neighborhoods and hauling snow rather than hauling gravel to stockpile for the next year. There's plenty of work out there for public works employees to be doing. And I think it's time, especially with the CD being signed. One of the cleanup areas is the old Butte Reduction Works, which is exactly where our hot plant and crusher are. So we're going to be required to remove that from that site. And we're on ARCO land. We have always been on ARCO land so it's not Butte-Silver Bowl land. So they're not going to buy another piece of ground for us to put that back on. The opportunity is right. The timing's right to probably go ahead and put it up for sale and purchase more asphalt every year and get some more work done. And that's one of the huge things that we've been hearing year in and year out, the condition of the road. So I think it's a perfect opportunity to improve on that. So having said that, I'll open it up for any other commissioners. Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think it's a great time to make that move. And I think if everyone's willing, Mark Neary could give us a little bit of a input from his view what is going on. And I think it will enlighten a lot of people the reason for happening right now to get this done. So if Mr. Neary wanted to weigh in, I would certainly call on him. Thank you.
I'm sure Mark would love to weigh in. Mark?
Chief Executive Palmer and commissioners, one thing I would want to state is the workforce is worried about layoffs, that we're trying to cut out jobs. And that is one thing. This selling the hot plant and crusher is no way will there be any jobs cut. The hot plant was purchased, as Chief Executive Palmer said, in order to do patches, and that's all the intent was for. And then we ended up doing bigger jobs with them here and there. But we Durapatch. We have the Durapatch machines, and they're holding up better than the patches that we did. The crusher I know is fairly new, but it's inefficient. It isn't what we needed. We handle the material a lot more than we actually should have, and there's a cost every time you touch it. The hot plant, as Chief Executive Palmer stated, have to be moved. We can't leave it there. We're not just selling it to sell it. We have to move it. It's not portable. Neither one of them are portable. We're going to hire somebody to come in, dismantle them out of there. So the thought that I have is, if we sell them now, we wouldn't have to have a contractor come in, tear them down, move them, mothball them for a few years. And when stuff sits like that, when you put it back up, they're never the same. And then, we would have to be purchasing asphalt and gravel from a contractor, which a contractor can faster, and we can be out doing more work. Everybody knows that we're years and years behind in our road maintenance. That's the only thing anybody really talks about. There's a lot of things going on, but the number one issue is the conditions of our road, to where we could free up some people to where we could be doing more than one thing at a time. We would still do the lay down. We would still do the milling. Our crew in Butte-Silver Bow, I'd put them up against any contractor. They do a great job. And I'm not just saying that to butter them up, because I know they're all upset with what's going on here, but they do a great job, and we got to continue doing it. And we have a lot of work to do. And I think it would free up some manpower that we could get more work done.
Any other comments? Commissioner Anderson.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. executive back when Bab was in office. I was on that committee that looked at that. And if I remember that report correctly, there was an awful lot of improvements, including insulation and things wrong with the hot plant. And I've been looking at it. I had a book and binder of things that I had in the time today to that. But how is it maybe figure out how to phrase this. Is it operating? Were those improvements way back then made on it? I know there was insulation, there was control boards, there was other issues with it. Have all of those been updated and fixed, or are we still lacking some of those?
Mr. Henry?
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. Commissioner Anderson, the insulation that was sprayed on the tanks have been removed. We actually purchased a new tank 2 years ago. There has been lots of upgrades. The plant itself does have a lot of upgrades, but I mean it's far from being top notch. It doesn't have a silo. They back a truck up and they load the truck, and the other truck backs up to it and pushes it out of the way to load the other truck. And then if there isn't any trucks there, they have to shut down. It's inefficient. There is a silo there and there is a drag, which is the elevator that loads the silo, but it's never been set up. We would have to put a lot of money into it to get it to where it would be beneficial to Butte-Silver, and we'd have to add a lot to the crusher in order to make it beneficial to Butte-Silver.
Thank you. That being said, what's the cost difference from buying asphalt? Say you said there was 3 or 4 people we could get it from now. The cost of the finished product that we just laid down versus the cost of all of the supplies and everything else. What has been going up faster? Has there been any looking into that?
Mr. Neary, do you have that answer?
Commissioner Anderson, last year our costs were very close. I think we might have even been a little higher. We went out to bid last year for 10,000 tons of asphalt also. I think our cost was right around 69, if I remember right. And then this year our costs are lower than the contractors, I think about $2 or $3, but oil prices went down also. So that was kind of where we're at there.
Okay, and one final question. How much would it cost to bring the crusher online to bring it up to the standards that you need?
Mr. Neary?
Well, for starters, we have to move it. It isn't portable. There isn't one piece that's portable. I'll have to be tore down and set up again. But you'd have to add, I mean, not to go through the whole process, but we'd have to add probably 3 or 4 more pieces of equipment to make it efficient. We're handling the material way times, and every time you touch it, there's a cost to it.
Exactly.
Commissioner Sorge.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Yes, I'm going to weigh in and say, whenever we have a legal problem, we listen to our lawyer. When we have a planning problem, we listen to our director of planning. I believe Mr. Neary probably has the most experience of any of us. I'm not sure that any of us have that kind of expertise. I can appreciate Mr. Callahan wanting to, sit down and talk about it, but I believe that we have to take the advice of our director of public works and use his experience and trust what he's saying. Saying that, I'd make a motion that we concur and place on file.
Second.
We have a substitute motion to concur in the request and place communication on file. On the question, Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Well said, Commissioner Sorich. Mr. Neary, it's my understanding that a lot of projects require a certain product before it's laid down on the road. Like, so it meets a certain, I just had it in my mind, a certain standard. And let me ask you this, does our current hot plant mixer meet all those standards? Or are we finding ourselves kind of messing up and having to go and recreate a batch here and there?
Mr. Leary.
Commissioner Morgan, we do have a mixed design. I think it was last year, at the beginning of the season, we went out and got a new mix design for the plant. And we're putting out, our mix design is the same spec as all the other contractors. Now, we don't get it to that spec all the time just because of the inefficiency in our plant. Like a silo helps with segregation. You know, some of the stuff that, if you notice some of the oil that we put down prior to last year, how it's wavy and there's oil slicks in it, and like the bleeding through the asphalt up at Folk Festival, stuff like that. The oil gets too rich. It's just, I mean, it's very touchy, very, but in spec.
Follow up, Commissioner Morgan.
Just a quick follow-up. In that channel, if we buy the product from somebody and there's problems with the specs, that's on them, correct?
Mr. Neary.
Commissioner Morgan, yes, that when we go out to bid, we ask for a certain spec. And, you know, you can't really look at the asphalt. Some people can look at the asphalt and see it's too oily and do some adjustments here and there. But like some of the asphalt, if it falls apart, you're not going to be able to tell, but we can core it, make sure that they're giving us the right product.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. Thank you, Public Works Director Neary. I also agree that this is a great idea, and I don't think there's a better time to put a crusher and a hot plant on the state surplus sale than there will be here in the very near future. As everyone knows, everything that is selling now is selling for top price, and it's a great time to sell this equipment. And in 4 or 5, 7 years down the road, we think we got to do something different. I think we'll be able to buy a lot better equipment for a little better price. So I think we're selling at a high price, and if we have to buy, I think we'll buy at a lot lower price. So I will concur with the rest in Mr. Neary's statement and the Chief Executive's statement, and I think this is a good time to make that move. Thank you.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. The other thing that when we do have to move this, if we did keep it, we have to move it, environmental concerns, and would we have to buy other land? That's what's just going through my head right now as we're discussing this. Whether that's a comment or something that Mark could answer for us. Thank you.
Commissioner Neary, Mr. Neary.
Commissioner O'Neill, thank you. We would have to purchase the land, and no matter where we set it up, you have to be compliant with air quality. You have to actually put it in an industrial zone. That we can't do that, but we would have to purchase land and set it up, both of them, the crusher and the hot plant. And there's certain permitting with both plants. That you're right.
Commissioner Callahan.
Thanks, Mr. Chief Executive. Out of no disrespect for Mr. Neary, we all know that by far he does a great job. He knows his stuff. The only thing that I caution, why are we in such a hurry just to run this through so quick? Perfect example of why we should be cautious is the last 2 bids we got in the last month were hundreds of thousands of dollars out of spec. And who's to say that won't happen down the road to where the taxpayers are taking on all this expense because now we no longer have that bargaining. And I'm not saying that Mr. Neary is wrong, but I just think we should take some time here, answer all the questions, dot all the I's, cross the T's. It doesn't hurt to sit down and have a good discussion. To hurry up and run this through just don't make sense to me. And like I said, Mark's very sharp at what he's done. We wouldn't have worked so hard to get him at that job. But I would like to take a little time and get some more answers. Thank you.
One of the reasons for the timing is We just figured that it would be much more beneficial to try to sell it while it's up and running so people could actually see that it is a working piece of equipment versus something that's in a pile in a corner of a yard someplace. And we have to have that moved before it would be up and running again next year. So, you know, it is ARCO land that it's sitting on now. They're going to be starting their construction. They might not start with the Butte reduction works, but they have to have an area to stockpile a lot of stuff, and that's the area they're looking at. So they want us to remove our equipment from that area as soon as possible. Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. If we were to put this up for sale right now, what kind of dollars would we be thinking roughly we would be getting? What would we ask for it? In case I want to go into business.
Mr. Neary, how much would you sell it to Commissioner O'Neill for?
Commissioner O'Neill, put a reserve on both pieces, and we have found we've had 4 public surplus auctions in the last 2 years here, and what we have found is you just put a reserve on it that you want to try and make above, but the hot plant and the crusher will bring some money. As how much, I'm not sure, but they are good pieces that would actually fit good in somebody else's operation. It isn't that we're not trying to get rid of junk. The reason that we talked about this is November was kind of the date that ARCO wanted us out of there, but then COVID hit. But as of before March, they told us we had to be out of there by November. And like Chief Executive Palmer said, it'd be nice if they found us a place to put it and everything else, but they've let us squat on their land for the last 30 years for free. And they just said it's time to get out. With Commissioner Callahan's comments, the prices that we're talking about, Mercury and Hanson, came in $200,000 under engineer's estimate. And then the price for the other one was on a sewer project, and it was Hoffman's were the only ones that bid it. Now that was, it's a tough time of the year, but it was the only time we had to bid the TCEP project because we just got notified that we could. We took a chance on doing that, but that had nothing to do with asphalt.
Follow up, Commissioner Callahan.
That's my exact point, though. When you're dependent on the contractor, you're going to be at his mercy. And if only one contractor bids it, he knows he can bid it as high as he wants because you have to take his bid.
Mr. Neary.
Commissioner Callahan, that's why the competitive bids. That's why we're not just bidding with one contractor on this asphalt. You have 3 now that bid it, and within the next year, I'd say you'll see one more contractor with a hot plant. I think you're going to have competitive bids, and I don't think they're going to skyrocket the price. And if it comes down to that and we can't afford it, we'll purchase a hot plant.
Commissioner Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Executive Palmer, excuse me. I kind of am of the same point of view as Dan Callahan. I don't think we want to drag this on for months, but it doesn't seem like we could bring it before Public Works next week. And I think we owe our citizens at least a little explanation of why we're making this major change, and that we have done our homework. And it looks like you have. It's just that there's a lot of homework that we haven't seen, or at least I haven't seen about the sale. I would think that we got it to Public Works because I've had some calls about people concerned about the sale of the plant, and I just want to make sure that we're at least checking, as Mr. Callahan said, dotting the I's and crossing the T's, that we actually have done our homework. I have no doubt that you've done that, but I think we need to present that information to the public. And one question on the bids for asphalt. What time of year do you do those? Is it over the winter that you do those?
Mr. Neary.
If I remember right, we bid that out in the spring. We did it in the spring this year and last year.
Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Chief Executive. How far in advance can we bid out the cost of the asphalt? I know that, say with the garbage contract, we have that go out for 5 years. Is there a way to do that with asphalt so we have a set price so we know we're going to be paying a couple years down into the future? Or is with the price of oil fluctuating so much, they just won't do that?
They would have to bid pretty high to protect themselves from the fluctuation in the prices of oil, which is an unknown every year. So I think it would be a dangerous thing to try to get a 5-year bid on asphalt. Who else? Commissioner Sorich.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Is there, Mark, is this a time-sensitive issue that when does this auction take place? You know, is this an ongoing auction? I'm not familiar with ongoing auction that people can bid on, or does this have to be on there at a certain time, or is this something that's very time-sensitive?
You know, one thing it's, I believe, and we can ask County Attorney Joyce, but we may need a resolution to declare this as surplus property. And that would give people plenty of time to research and get their questions answered, I guess. But County Attorney Joyce, is that correct? A resolution may be necessary to declare it as surplus before it could be sold?
Mr. Chief Executive, in order to, I think, sell this property, you would need a 2/3 vote of the council, so 8 people would have to approve the sale, and the sale has to be done through a resolution. So a resolution would have to be passed regarding the sale of this equipment, according to the state law provision that we have adopted through our local ordinance.
So County Attorney Joyce, I presume that resolution has to be done prior to the sale. It's not once we get the sale price and we pass a resolution authorizing the actual sale to someone who bid high.
Mr. Chief Executive, yes, that's just basically what the state law says is that in order to sell the property, that the sale has to be done by resolution. So yeah, you would have to authorize, I believe, Mr. Neary to put it on the auction, but before you accepted a sale, then you would have to pass a resolution to do so. So you would need the 2/3 vote to authorize the sale, and then you'd need a resolution to approve the sale.
So I guess maybe we need the motion to state that authorize the sale of it and ask the county attorney to draft a resolution authorizing the sale. Is that correct? Should be part of the motion.
Mr. Chief Executive, yes, you would need at least the motion to authorize the sale to occur. Typically, you know, when we pass these resolutions, that we already know who the buyer is. When somebody comes before the council and asks for permission to purchase property, or somebody from the local government wants to sell property to a certain entity or individual, then the resolution can be introduced at that time. So the resolution itself doesn't have to authorize the sale. I think the council has to vote at least by a 2/3 vote to have a sale. And then once you determine who you're going to sell it to, because then Mr. Neary would put it on the public auction, and then there would have to be a resolution passed authorizing the sale to whoever, I guess, was the successful person under the auction procedure.
Okay. So we're fine with the motion that we have. So anything further on the question? I think somebody else had their hand up. Commissioner McDonough.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. So outside of the discussion of asphalt prices from 4 potential contractors next year, it's
Commissioner McDonough, you froze up there. You might have to repeat what you're talking to yourself about.
Okay, so outside of the discussion of 4 potential contractors bidding asphalt next spring, it's been determined that we need to move our current plant from its current site by November, which is 2 months away. I would assume that since we just went through our budget season and cycle, that we probably don't have $500,000 or $600,000 laying around that would purchase a new piece of property. I assume that we haven't negotiated with any potential party to buy property for Butte-Silver Bow to locate an asphalt plant. And it's my understanding that the current county shop site isn't suitable for it because it was looked at the time to potentially relocate, but that was ruled out at the time when we purchased the property. So are my assumptions, are they correct or am I incorrect? Do we have money laying around to purchase property, or is this make it, or does that make it time sensitive as well?
I believe you are correct. We can ask our budget director, Gleason, but we do not have the money laying around to purchase property to relocate this crusher to at this time in the hot plant.
Chief Executive Palmer, Commissioner McDonough, no, and you're correct. I think that in the past, when there was potential and when we knew that the hot plant crusher needed to be relocated, there was sites potentially that were going to be available at minimum or no cost to Butte-Silver Bow. And, one being like the Pulse site, one being the site you just mentioned. And so currently today, there's no additional funds in the budget. We'd be looking at using reserve funds. If we had to buy it today without going through a budget process, we'd have to go through the public hearing and use reserve funds to make that purchase.
Anything further?
Thank you.
Okay, so we do have the motion on the floor to concur in the request in the communication, place communication on file. Is there anything else on the question? Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. So nobody will lose their job. I mean, is there, how can we assure the employees of Butte-Silver Bow that we get this through, nobody be losing their job?
Well, I can state as long as I'm here, which may only be a few more months, but I promise that because of the sale of the crusher and the hot plant, we're not going to be laying off any employees of Butte-Silver Bow. I mean, if a budget crunch comes further down the road, there could be a reason to do it, but it's not going to be because of the sale of the crusher and the hot plant that we'll be laying off employees. Mr. Neary.
Thank you, Chief Palmer. Commissioner O'Neill, we have more work than we can get done. I mean, we'll never be caught up. In any of our lifetimes here, we'll never be caught up on the work that needs to be done. There will be nobody laid off because of the sale of the crusher or the hot plant.
So, Chief Executive.
Mr. Gleason.
Chief Executive Palmer, I'd just like to add a couple things too. I think there were some mentions that we haven't really discussed this or brought forward. I can tell you, and I know that many of the members of the Finance and Budget Committee, every single time we purchase asphalt, those conversations have been held about the cost and what it cost the local government over the past few years to be purchasing asphalt versus what our costs were actually to make the asphalt. And we shared that information with the Finance and Budget Committee. So I know that's been shared with them as well. Also, just wanted to mention that we've had many discussions at different times with different commissioners in regards to this. I think just myself and when we attend the League of Cities conferences or MACO conferences, I always take it upon myself to go to like a Public Works Committee meeting or seminar or training, or to jump into other trainings, not just focus on in the finance area. And one of the times that I sat into when the League of Cities was here in Butte, and they had the Public Works Director from Billings. I don't even believe Mark was quite yet our Public Works Director, might have just been starting. They discussed the morale and how great it was when they did, and they contract out some of their asphalt and their paving, and just to let the workers that they currently had, no layoffs were ever made. It did allow when they established their larger maintenance district, and that was the main reason I sat in those public works meetings, was to hear more about their maintenance districts. And it just that it allowed, the public works director mentioned how it allowed for their staff to more focus on the maintenance area and doing the snow removal and doing the patching. And he couldn't speak enough about the morale that it did for the department. And right now I can say as on the budget side, no position is looked at any cuts to fund anything else or any indication in the future. And we don't look budget year to budget year. We try to prepare 5 years out. So this isn't just something that we're tossing out there with no analysis in the future and no looking back at the history on the crusher.
I would go as far as saying that I will work with the HR department, Leslie Clark, and the unions to draft an MOU stating exactly as I had said, that due to the crusher and the hot plant being sold, we will not have layoffs within the workforce due to those reasons. So we can draft something that working with the unions, and we can make it happen. But it's definitely not the intent to reduce the workforce. So there's, like Mr. Neary said, there's plenty of work to be done, and people are out in the community that want to see that work get done. So this is a good way to move forward and try to accomplish that. Any further? Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Last question. All of the asphalt, this would be to Mark, all the asphalt for Dewey Boulevard, where did that come from?
Mr. Neary.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. Commissioner O'Neill, that was purchased through Hollow. Hollow won the bid this year. I think he ended up buying the asphalt through Copper City because he didn't have his plant, but our bill comes from Hollow at the 66.75 a ton.
Okay. Anything further? Okay. Will everyone please vote? Wait until you get your screen up and then we'll vote. Okay. Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
Looks like we're still waiting for a couple. Everybody could just make sure that they voted and hit submit. Right now I have 9. Oh. All right, we're good to go.
Okay.
Can we record the vote? Mr. Chief Executive, it looks like we have 9 yay and 3 no.
Okay, motion carries, and that's.
Chief Executive or Chairman Morgan, could we poll the 3 no votes?
I believe it was reported on there, Commissioner Fisher. Let's see if we can just call that back up. Looks like the no votes were Commissioner Mankins, Commissioner Frederickson, and Commissioner Shea. Is that what you were asking for, Commissioner Fisher?
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I was supposed to be a no.
So, Mr. Chief Executive, then it would be ATA 4 nay. We'll update the record to reflect Commissioner Olson.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Next, we'll go to communication number 2020-378. Mark Neary, Public Works Director, requesting Council of Commissioners concurrence and authorization for the Chief Executive to sign the Fairmont Street Phase 1 engineering agreement with Water and Environmental Technologies. This agreement will provide engineering and construction services for Phase 1 area of Fairmont Street located between Lafayette and Hancock Avenues in a small section of Gladstone. Commissioner Sorich.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I'm just gonna probably comment more than anything. I appreciate the Public Works Department reviewing this again. This has been one of the largest white elephants in my district for a long, long time. If not in that whole side of town. These people down there live in these streets in the springtime. It's a mess. Some of these ruts get 2 feet deep. And I know, the Public Works over the years, they've tried to do things down there and it's just kind of fallen through the cracks. So I'm confident that with the current Public Works Department, that they're going to take a good hard look at it again and review it and try to make some improvements for the folks down there. Saying that, I'm going to make a motion to concur and place on file.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to concur in the request in communication 2020-378 and place the communication on file. Is there anything on the question? Seeing none, will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
Mr. Chief Executive, looks like 12 yeas, 0 nay.
Motion carries. Thank you. And next, we will go to section 3, ordinances and resolutions referred to judiciary. Council Bill number 2020-06, ordinance 2020-06. Section 4, ordinances and resolutions for final passage. Number 1, resolution number 2020-31. This is a resolution of intent to alter the boundaries of the city and county of Butte-Silver, Montana's solid waste special district to include the boundaries of the town of Walkerville and providing for an effective date herein. Commissioner Morgan.
Mr. Chief Executive, I'll make a motion, but I believe Ms. Gleason has something to report on this. So at this time, I'll make a motion that we move resolution 2020-31 and place it on final reading and pass. It's been deemed fully read at length.
Second.
And we have a motion made and seconded to pass Council Resolution 2020-31 on final reading. On the question, Mrs. Gleason, would you like to talk about the email you sent out with the number of protest votes versus?
Yes, please. I think Kathy's calling up that screen shot.
She's working on it. Yep.
Okay.
There you go. I can see it up here. You guys should be able to. 1 second. We're seeing the phone.
There we go.
Okay, there you go.
That's it. So this is the calculation that was required to be done based on the number of protests that we received. You can see that the total number of residential parcels ended up being 324 that we're predicting will receive garbage service in the solid waste district. Originally, we thought it was closer to 350, but as the SID department went through and parcel by parcel and looked at these, a lot of these parcels did not have improvements on them, so therefore will not be assessed the landfill disposal charge or garbage collection charge, I'm sorry. So how this calculation works is you take the cost, which is $106.50, and you multiply that to get the total cost to the Walkerville residents. So this would be the expansion area, which would be 34,000. Oh, she lost it. Do you want me to wait there, John?
She's calling it back up right now.
Okay.
Nope. Nope. One second, Miss Gleason.
Well, let me share my screen.
Nope.
Okay. I can share mine, John.
She's 1 second.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go. So the total cost for the Walkerville residents would be $34,506, and under Montana code, 50% of the cost of the improvements cannot be protested or you can't move forward. So the number of protests were 28 protests at $106.50. So the cost of the protests were $2,982. So easily satisfied that 50% the threshold was not met. But when you look at the 10% calculation, so you have to take 10% of the total cost of the $34,506. The 10% cost was $3,450.60. There were 28 validated protests. That the cost of the protests of those 28 was $2,982. So you on the second test, the 10% rule, you have to look at the total cost of the 3450.60 less the 2982. So we've also met the 10%. So that means that the Walkerville district could move forward, even though they did have 28 protests in that district.
Thank you, Danette. Are there any questions from the council for Danette on the calculations? Okay.
Chief Executive Palmer.
Commissioner Mankins.
Mrs. Gleason, could you just explain why we were so off with the parcels that we thought that we were going to have?
So Commissioner Mankins, we estimated around 350 parcels, but when the SID department looked at the actual number of parcels that were up there that did not have improvements on them. So the only time that you can allocate in this collection district the fee is if there's an improvement on there, meaning there's a house to collect garbage from. And so when they went back and reviewed that, there was only 324 versus originally we said approximately 350. And so they were down to 324.
Thank you, Mrs. Gleason.
That number will probably change slightly as McGree's start rolling out. If you pass this resolution and then pass the next step, and the district is solidified, then when McGree start rolling out the garbages, there could be some additional changes here. There's people that in the department, we have to go solely based on what the Department of Revenue shows on their record of the parcel and then the improvements on it. And sometimes people tear down a garage or tear down a house or something. Department of Revenue doesn't have it on their records or on their files, the state of Montana. So then when we pick it up, it doesn't look like it's removed, but then a person will protest it if we put that on their taxes. And that's kind of what happened. Some of these individuals were calling us up when they were getting these letters that we had to mail out. That's why at this point, we had to wait the 60 days or more for those protests. And we had to wait for those people to call or to send their letters back into protest. And a few people had called us or reached out to us and had wrote notes even that they don't have improvements on their property. So then we went out and had to go out and make sure they didn't have improvements. And then we had to remove them from the collection district or the potential expansion of the district.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything further on the question? Okay, we will vote now. So will everyone please vote when the screen comes up?
31, yes.
Okay, will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
It's like we're just waiting for.
Yeah, we're waiting.
For what?
Commissioner Shaw, do you not show your poll?
No, I don't have a poll. All right, now I do.
Okay, everyone please vote. Make sure they voted.
Okay.
It's like we're looking for one more. If everybody could please make sure they hit submit. If not, I'll. Kathy, can you just record those and then I'll to see who we need? Mr. Chief Executive, I need a vote from Commissioner Shea.
She votes yes.
She votes yes, so 12 yea, 0 nay.
Motion carries. Okay, thank you. Now is the time for any public comment on any public matter not on the agenda. We'll go to the phone lines first.
Mr. Chief Executive, right now we don't have anybody on the phone, but I do have a comment that came into Butte-Silver or BSB public input. I think it was more for the zoning board, but being that it came to this address, I'm going to read it.
Okay.
It's dated Wednesday, September 9th, 2020, and it's from Joe Mike Novak, owner of High Altitude Gardens. Hello, I own the property in the business High Altitude Gardens located at 1842 Harrison Avenue, which is directly south of Copper City Physical Therapy. I wholly disagree with the Butte-Silver Bow's attempt to make Miss McAdam remove her sign because to me, it seems completely unreasonable and unjust. While the location of the sign may not satisfy the code and zoning requirements established in prior decades, it deserves to remain in place for several common sense reasons. Number one, does it detract from the surrounding area property values? No. Does it pose a safety risk to motorists driving along Harrison Avenue? No. Is the sign obnoxious or otherwise a distraction? No. Does it contribute to the economic viability of the business? Yes, because it helps people driving northbound easily find the location. The Council of Commissioners should do the right thing and grant Ms. McAdam an exemption from this draconian enforcement measure. Regards, Joe Mike Novak. And there's still nobody on the phone. Mr. Chief Executive.
Okay, thank you. I'll call your attention to the list of other meetings that will be by WebEx. And Commissioner Morgan.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you and have a good night.
Good night, everybody. Have a good week.
Hey, Bill, you want to give me a call about
Good night, everyone.
Good night.